Hey YouTube, how's it going? This is Gamester81. In today's episode, we're going to do a 2-in-1 special for you. I'm going to review two systems in one video, which I don't usually do, but we're going to take a closer look at the RetroN 3 by Hyperkin and the RetroTwin by Tommy. Both systems have just came out. They're both available and they were sent to me by my good friends at Stone Age Gamer. I'm going to show you a closer look at the system itself, the controllers, the gameplay, and show you if it's actually worth picking up or not. A lot of people ask about clone systems. We're going to take a look at two examples here in this video. Also, I want to say a big thank you to a couple fellow YouTubers. One is Frank, also known as Sypran. He sent me a Commodore 128 computer with a floppy drive, some games. Totally generous guy. Awesome. Thank you so much for sending that to me. I had not owned a Commodore 128 before. Thank you for sending that to me. If you guys don't know what that is, it's a computer that came after the Commodore 64, a lot less common. So I'll do a review on that eventually on this channel. Also want to say thank you to Thegoon02. He sent me a really unique handheld with these games that plug in to the screen. I'm not quite sure the name. It's the YD69BC is what it says on here. He also sent me, he knows I'm a Trekkie by heart, so he sent me a Star Trek Next Generation figure, and he sent me some Beavis and Butthead bobble dolls. So guys, just really thank you for sending those to me. Definitely don't need to send me any stuff, but truly appreciate it. I want to put a link to their channels below. But in the meantime, let's take a closer look at these two systems and let's see if it's worth picking up. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay guys, this is the RetroTwin. This thing just came out by Tommy. It usually retails for around $60. You can go to stoneagegamer.com, link is below, and they will sell it to you for $40. So it's definitely reasonably priced, and what it is, it plays Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games both in one. It does not play Famicom games or Super Famicom games, unfortunately. Okay, it's a top-loading design, which is nice. It has Super Nintendo style controllers, which it is compatible with regular Super Nintendo controllers. Okay, it has a nice package here where you have the display, you open it up, you get the window, and it shows you the system itself. You got these characters right here, look like something from Space Invaders or something like that. And then if you look on the very top here, it shows you the system itself, okay, and what it does. All right, on the back, it just shows you how to hook up the system to the TV. It uses AV out, stereo sound. It's got multiple languages. It's got English, French, and Spanish. Okay, so let's open this bad boy up and see what's inside this thing. Okay, we took the box off. It comes with two controllers, which again are like Super Nintendo style controllers, and the hookup's the same. It comes with your AV cables, red, white, yellow. Comes with a power supply, which is, it looks like a 120 volt, 10 volt output, input 120, so pretty standard. And the system itself, first impression of the system, it's very lightweight. I don't know how many boards are in there now, but it's very lightweight. This is your reset button right here to reset your game. You get your power, is to switch on. Okay, I see. So this is off in the center, and then you switch if you want to do Super Nintendo, you switch to the right. If you want to play Nintendo, you switch to the left. Okay, and in the middle, it's off. And the lights, it looks like Nintendo would light up red, Super Nintendo would light up green. Again, you have these Space Invader characters on there. This is where the Super Nintendo games would plug into, and this is where the Nintendo games would plug into. Okay? On the back, you've got your system. It is NTSC, so unfortunately it is not PAL compatible, but I think most PAL TVs nowadays are compatible with NTSC. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think the vice versa, the other way, it's really hard to get it to work. But overall, pretty lightweight system. I like the design, pretty user-friendly. The only thing I can see that's kind of a bummer about it is if you want to hook up a Nintendo controller, you can't. So if you want to use a zapper gun or anything like that, you're going to be out of luck using that for the system. That's kind of a bummer. Okay, let's check out the RetroN 3. Here is the RetroN 3. This thing usually retails for about $70, and Stone Age Gamer is selling this now for $55. So if you want to cough up $15 more, you get a little better of a system. I'll tell you why. This thing is brand new. It's by Hyperkin. If you guys are familiar with the FC3, it's very similar to that, but they've definitely made some upgrades, and it plays not only Nintendo games and Super Nintendo games, it also plays Genesis games now. So you got three systems in one. A system like this is nice to have if you're just getting into gaming and you want to play a lot of retro games, but you don't want to cough up money to buy 3 separate systems, this is a good alternative to get. Okay, one thing I like about it a lot, just from looking at it, it's got the wireless controllers. We're going to see how well these work, and then also you get all 3 ports here available. So you get the Nintendo ports, the Super Nintendo ports, and Genesis port. So controller ports, that is. So you can actually plug in your controllers and use different accessories and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. Again, it has a nice little window, and it shows you the system itself. And then this is actually displayed a little bit more. I think it's nicer displayed than the RetroTwin as far as packaging goes. And you get this wireless system technology. Okay, so let's open this up. So here is the inside. This is once you unbox it, this is what you get. You get the system itself, 2 controllers, and you get your AV cables, and you get your AC adapter. Same size as the other one. These are pretty bulky, to be honest with you, but same voltage and stuff like that as the other one. These controllers look a lot like the 6-button Genesis controllers, a little bit lightweight. They do run off of batteries. The one thing I don't like about it, just from seeing it right away, is you get this mini screw thing. If you use a mini screwdriver and open it up, I think they do that for choking hazards for kids. But it tells you the button layout, which is nice. So you got your NES, where it tells you what buttons work for what, Genesis, and your Super Nintendo. So that's interesting. So ZC these are the bumpers for the Super Nintendo. That's kind of interesting controls. Okay, so probably takes a little to get used to. Again, if you already have the controllers, you can use the original controllers on the system, which is nice. Speaking of system, let's take a closer look at it. This does come in black as well, but I just like the look of the red a little bit better. You've got your Super Nintendo controller ports in the front. You got your Nintendo ones on the side here on the left, and you've got your Genesis ones on the other side. The one thing I can see just by looking at it is you have to position it looks like you have to position the system correctly in order to play. So if you have a shelf and you have a shelf and you want to play Nintendo, you probably have to position the system to play like this. Otherwise, it's kind of awkward to hook up the controller. So that's kind of a bad design. Maybe next model, if they put all the ports in the front, that would be better. Definitely a little bit more heavy than the RetroTwin. Same kind of plastic. You get your power button right here, your reset, and this is a knob, so you can switch between different systems. It's interesting. There's like a 4th connection there. It doesn't. I don't know what that would do. I don't think it does anything, but that's cool. I don't know if there's a light or not that would light up for if it's powered on or not. Maybe, my guess is probably these lights right here power up right here when the system's on. So that's cool. This is your infrared light right here. Looking on the back, you have your audio, video, AV out. You also get your S video out, which is nice. It only works on the Genesis and Super Nintendo, from my understanding. It does not work on the Nintendo games. And your AC adapter plug in there. This is a switch that doesn't work according to Stone Age Gamer. They put it on there and they just end up not using it for anything. So that's interesting. Again, it's only NTSC compatible, and it tells you kind of it was made in China. But kind of an interesting looking design system for sure. And let's take a closer look at some gameplay. Okay guys, so the first game we're going to check out on the RetroTwin is Super Mario Brothers for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I chose this game because I figure most of us have played this before on Nintendo and are familiar with it. First thing you'll notice that's a lot different is the music is extremely loud and extremely off. It's to the point where it's almost annoying. You could play this game on mute, I suppose, but overall the color patterns might be a little slightly off, but it does play okay on the Super Nintendo controller. The Y button is V button, and the B button is an A button, which is kind of strange and takes a little getting used to, but not too bad. But let's check out the next game, which is Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, which is a classic and must-have for the Super Nintendo. We're going to check out, see how this does. Obviously, the sound is much better on the Super Nintendo, not as blaring as the Nintendo. The color might be slightly off, but honestly, it plays overall fairly well on the system. And obviously with the controller, it plays perfect for the system as well. So definitely the RetroTwin plays Super Nintendo's games fairly good overall. now we're going to check out the RetroN 3 Super Mario Brothers. As you can see, the sound is much clearer. It's not as blaring. In fact, it's almost the opposite. It's almost too quiet. To be honest with you, I definitely have to turn up the volume here in order to play it. Also, Mario has kind of a weird white border around him, which is strange. And I'll be honest with you, I'm using the wireless controller playing this, and it's fairly tricky to play on the Genesis controller. And the controller, you pretty much have to be facing it, the system, staying 2 feet away to play it. So the controller is fairly useless, to be honest with you. And he kind of disappears there, which is odd. It's strange. We're going to check out Sonic the Hedgehog, because most of us know this is the Genesis port for part of the RetroN 3. And overall, this is a fairly good, this handles the Genesis fairly nicely. Color might be slightly off, but really nothing too noticeable. And one thing you'll notice here while I'm playing is this: when you kick your coins, it's not that annoying clink, 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 clink like you'll hear on other clones, where I know a lot of people had issues with, the Gen X, whatever. There's other clones out there that have issues with the coin sound. But overall, this is a really good port for Genesis, and it plays a lot better on using the Genesis wireless controllers, because I'm just used to the format, obviously. We're going to check out Super Mario World again on the RetroN 3, and you'll see that this actually emulates it pretty much the same as the Retro Twin, which is fairly well. I will tell you this though, playing it on the Genesis wireless controller, hella confusing. Took me forever to figure it out. Not only does the wireless controller pretty shoddy as far as whether if I push a button or not, but I noticed you can't run and jump at the same time with the way the buttons are laid out, and there's no right and left bumpers, and it's just really confusing. So I definitely recommend, when you're playing this version on the RetroN 3, use a regular Super Nintendo controller. As you can see, I'm playing horrendous. Okay guys, I'm going to tell you my honest opinion about each one of these systems. The Retro Twin overall, the Super Nintendo part, emulated fairly well, especially since it came with a Super Nintendo kind of controller. Games played fairly easy and it ran smoothly. The Nintendo game emulator, however, as you heard, the sound was off, color was off, didn't emulate nearly as well. However, the games were playable, depending how much your ears can take, listen to it. And the controller was kind of interesting, because using the Super Nintendo controller to play Nintendo games, the Y button works as that B button, the B button works as the A button, but it doesn't take you very long to figure out. I do wish there was a Nintendo port on here, controller port, so you could play with Nintendo controllers. That'd be nice. That way you can actually use the Zaberga and other accessories. The Retro Twin, you cannot. Another thing to keep in mind though is the Retro Twin, when you're actually plugging in these games, for some reason, these games are very hard to plug in. You almost have to slam into it, and even then it doesn't snap in. So I mean, I kind of felt that I nearly broke the board on the Nintendo initially for one of the games when plugging this in. So that they definitely need to work on. But for $40 on StoneAgeGamer.com, if you're looking for a fairly good Super Nintendo emulator, at least clone system, you might want to look into getting one of these. Now for $15 more to $55, you're definitely get a lot more for your money. This is the RetroN 3, and overall I was really impressed the way the games emulated. Other than Nintendo, the sound was a little quiet, but that's not an issue. It wasn't as annoying as with the Retro Twin, at least. I do like the fact that there are ports for all systems, unlike the FC3, which it didn't have that. So it's a nice touch. Speaking of controllers though, this thing right here, honestly, it's a good paperweight, and that's about it. This is worthless. You have to pretty much stand 2 feet away from this console, right in front of it. If you point it another direction, it doesn't work at all. Not very responsive. To play a Super Nintendo game using a Genesis controller is actually very difficult, and I wish there was some kind of side buttons here, and they don't have that. So honestly, if you end up getting the system, you might as well look to throw these controllers out and pick up controllers for the games that you want to play. If you do have like a Super Nintendo controller and you plug it in front, you cannot play Nintendo games with that controller. You cannot play Genesis games with that controller. Those controllers that you plug in can only work for that system that you plug that controller in, if that makes sense. Keep that in mind. Overall though, this is not a bad system. I really like the S-Video. I'm sorry I couldn't capture that on this video, but I did play with S-Video afterwards. And I must say, the images for the Super Nintendo and Genesis are much more crisp and clear than even the original AV out, using the AV out cables. I wish they had S-Video for Nintendo. It does not happen for the system. As far as compatibility goes for the system, for the games, most Nintendo games will work on both clone systems. As far as Super Nintendo goes, I tried Super Mario Bros. RPG, did not work for either system. I tried Castlevania 3, did not work for either system. There's just a handful of games that don't work for clone systems for some reason, and they haven't figured it out yet. As far as Genesis compatibility, I tried Virtual Racing, and that game did not work for the RetroN 3. Yet another game that it's really tricky for them to figure out how to emulate on these clone systems for some reason. Overall, guys, I definitely recommend, if you're looking on the bubble as far as getting a clone system, I do recommend the RetroN 3, depending on if you want to pay for the controllers on the side as well. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Happy gaming. Until next time, Gamester81 out. Take care.